and welcome to another episode of the Environmental Answers podcast. We are here to bring you clarity on what's what in the environmental industry. We are joined here today with Evan from Scrapp. Hey, Evan, how are you doing today?
Hi, Tiana. Thank you for having me. Doing very well, thank you.
Yeah, so today we're going to learn a little bit more about better defining what recycling means. We got actually a couple questions about why is recycling still a thing? Does it really matter? And we're very lucky to have you, Evan. Could you give us a little bit of background as to why you're a good person to ask this question to?
Oh, that's a good question. So I've been working now for Scrap for over 5 years now. It actually started off as a university dorm room project 6 years ago. We were very new to the industry at the time, and we were still trying to figure this out as we went along. We've been very fortunate to be starting the company at a time when the circular economy has really started to take a lot of wind, started to grow a lot with regards to it as a concept, and helping organizations around the world in different sectors striving towards reducing the amount of waste they're producing. So learning through a lot of different policies that we've been working on, helping organizations better manage their data around waste with a range of different customers, has given us a lot of insight in how we can really help take the antiquated system that currently exists and transforming it into one that's going to be truly effective in helping the planet reduce the amount of waste we're producing.
So you said it started as like a dorm room project. Was it like you and a couple friends? Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was in the back of a engineering class, sustainable engineering class in the University of New Hampshire. It's back in 2019. And we got a choice for one of our modules. It was either write a 5-page report on a green technology that we like, or we try and solve an environmental and social problem for the chance to win $30,000 to develop the idea further. Pretty good, right?
Yeah, that's good.
As a British person who was studying in the US at the time, I can comfortably tell you back then, nothing like that ever existed. So it was a pretty simple decision, as you can imagine. We went for the competition winnings rather than the 5-page report. To save a lot of backstory, unfortunately, the idea fell flat on its face. We didn't actually win any of the money. But on a whim, we submitted the idea to the EPA, and the EPA loved it. They flew us out to Washington, D.C., where we pitched alongside Nestle, Poland Spring Water, Axiom, these really big names who are help trying to move the needle forward when it comes to more circular economy practices. And the most resounding evidence that we got when we were in DC at the EPA fair that we were presenting at, they said, you're onto something, keep going, keep building. So what originally started off as a hardware bin where you could put your waste in, it would identify contamination with AI, and then have a gamified mobile app where you could register your deposits to help encourage that positive behavioral change. The business has now evolved where we're predominantly a software-focused and data-focused business only, where we help organizations track, monitor, and reduce their waste footprint across global markets to make sure that they can save time and become compliant with local regulations.
Oh, that's dynamic. I know that, being a startup founder myself, being able to iterate, that was a good iteration. You learned, you saw, and then you kept going. So how did you form the team? Was this like an assignment for class where you guys put on the team, or did you guys self-select?
We were the 3 guys in the back of the classroom.
That was really it. No, there was no special formula to that. It's just
there was no special formula.
I got you. No, and so are those same people still working on this project with you today?
No, so yeah, Mikey's still with us, and then we also brought in 2 other co-founders as well. They're more technically savvy. So the original founding team, we weren't, let's say, technically savvy. We were more commercial focused. But so we brought in 2 technical guys as well who've been instrumental in helping develop the tech to get it where it is today. That was about a year later after we initially started it as a university project.
That's awesome. So I did promise you to provide us a definition of what is recycling. Some people have read articles, I know myself included, that make it seem like recycling is pointless. But could you help us first define what recycling is, and then how this terminology that you also use with circular economy, could you break that apart for us as well?
Absolutely. So I'll quickly put a disclaimer. This probably isn't the exact definition of recycling, but it's the way that I perceive it. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you a quick anecdote as to why I see it that way. So recycling is the idea that we can take discarded materials that are no longer of use in a given area, take that material and then use it to refeed the supply chain to turn it back into something new that is similar to the original material. In an ideal world, you want to get it so you could take a PET plastic bottle, you recycle it, and it could be turned back 100% into a PET plastic bottle. Unfortunately, laws of physics and current mechanical recycling processes don't allow that 100% conversion from material waste back to product material to go back through the cycle. So this 100% idea doesn't actually work in practice, only in theory. That is the way that I would describe recycling. Now, there are different variations of recycling. So you have upcycling and downcycling. So if you're looking at creating recycling a PET bottle, you might have seen that they sometimes shred up that plastic bottle, and then they'll put it into timber frames. They'll make plastic timber frames with a plastic style timber decking. That is what's called downcycling, because once you've done that, you then can't remake it into something new, because the process that's involved with it means it's now no longer recyclable. So what we want to do is we want to try and find a way of making sure that whatever you turn it into next means it has another use case afterwards. So, for example, when you recycle this PET bottle, which I'm going to stay on quickly, you have to keep introducing virgin material every time you recycle it, because otherwise the hue of the PET will change from clear to yellow. And there's been a lot of studies to prove that consumers don't trust a yellow PET bottle because it looks dirty, right? We've been trained psychologically as consumers, if it's clear and you can see the product, you're more likely to buy it.
Gotcha.
So
I never thought about that until you brought that up. Like, I would probably like, oh, it's yellow. Does that mean it's clear? Like, no, that makes sense. So that's how like you would define recycling. And then could you bring us over to like when you said the circular economy? What does that mean?
Circular economy. So that is to break it down, it's the idea that we no longer take, make, dispose on a linear consumption cycle. We take raw materials out of the ground, we produce them into something that is useful, that has a purpose, and then we are able to reuse and recycle them and put them back into the system. It's the idea that we can conserve the materials that are extracted out of the ground and they maintain in a circular system so that each stakeholder it gets passed to. So the manufacturer goes to the supermarket shelf goes to the waste hauler down to the recycling plant, back to the manufacturer, right? That's the circular economy idea. Now, there is a bit of a caveat because some people describe thermal recycling as being part of the circular economy. But the way that I describe the circular economy is that you have to assume it's an infinite mindset where the materials are going to constantly be in the system. Thermal recycling is the idea that you get the material, you burn it and turn it into energy. But I don't know about you. If you keep doing that on a long enough time horizon, eventually you're going to run out of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So the whole premise of this linear economy of just consuming everything out of the ground and burning it, putting it into landfill won't work long term. And so for my definition, and also part of the Zero Waste International Alliance's definition, you're looking at how can you bring it back into the system in its almost entirety. So that 100% idea I mentioned earlier.
That makes sense. And I appreciate you bringing that full circle. What I want to ask next is to talk to us a little bit about Scrapp. Like, what is it that you all do? Could you break that apart and how's that's connected to recycling and the circular economy?
Good question. So Scrapp is a waste data tracking and communication software. So we help businesses, local councils and municipalities. We help brands and retailers and venues to help go zero waste through the better management and tracking of their waste data and their procurement data. We then use that data to then communicate the positive impact they're being made. So to give you an example, let's say that you are a manufacturer of a specific plastic material. We can help you at your facilities level track that waste in real time. So you can look at the inflows of waste that's coming in and then look at your waste hauler data to see what's going out every month. And we can give you an idea on what your differential is on the materials you're consuming. In an ideal world, when we can get zero waste, we're going to change that differential to zero. And then you no longer need to worry about spending money on waste fees. You're reducing the amount of handling costs that are associated. You're saving carbon emissions. And most importantly, you're reducing waste going to landfill.
Do you also like help people? Is it just like the waste they've already created? Do you make recommendations on different products that they can use, or like what else does Scrapp do? Because like in my mind, like I'm looking at my lotion bottle right now and I'm like, okay, yeah, like it doesn't necessarily have what you were calling earlier, but it's like a bottle, right? And I'm like wondering, like it has this like little circle shape, like it's like almost like a like an arrow going in one direction. So when I look at it, I'm like, does this mean that it could be recycled or not? So anyway, main point of my question was like, do you all also make recommendations to your clients, or do they mostly just track with you?
Yeah, so we make recommendations as well. So the idea is that you can, we always joke, right? We're very good at highlighting the problems with the data. And then, okay, how can we solve these for you? So once we've done our initial reduction strategies, so there's something called the waste management hierarchy, and it starts with prevention, and you work all the way down to trash, basically, because that's the final thing you've got to do. But you can do prevention, reduction, reuse, recycling, and trash.
What is that hierarchy called again? Say it one more time.
It's called the waste management hierarchy.
Waste management.
It's a very good way to observe the current resource consumption and the material consumption that we are on. So when you start looking at that data with regards to the prevention side of stuff, you can then start to go, okay, what solutions can we implement? We have what's called the Sustainable Supply Network, which is it's almost like an informal network of tens and tens of sustainable suppliers that we've met over the journey of Scrapp so far, where we can help them make reductions in the waste of the client by referring them in as a sustainable alternative.
Is Scrapp only in, like, are you in the United States? Are you in the UK? Are you guys global? Where are you located?
So good question. We are based predominantly in Boston. So our main head office is in Boston. Most of the team's based there. I am based in Europe, but we all work remotely, and we have team members based as far east as the UAE and far west as Toronto.
Is that like complicated? Because I think about like waste management in different places, I assume. Isn't it different laws and stuff like that? Is that something that you guys come into?
It is, yeah. And that's something that we can facilitate to our platform. So we really pride ourselves in being able to find end market data and then bring it to the front end decision making of a lot of the businesses we work with. So there's a conversation to be had when you're working with us. Okay, we're looking at launching this new product in the Canadian market, right? When you typically look at how you develop that product, you're going to be doing user testing, you're going to be speaking to customers, you're going to do focus groups, really trying to understand how a consumer is going to interact with that product. But now we're in a time where you also have to think about, okay, what's the impact of that product, right? And so sometimes you're going to look at Scope 3 emissions, which is carbon emission tracking, right? You're going to look at water consumption, energy consumption. One thing that is very different, as you've rightly pointed out, around the world is waste infrastructure. So if one of those new data points that you can put into that product development is, okay, if we put this product in the market, it's 5% recyclable across all of our customers. But if we change this and this based on Scrapp's data, it goes from 5% recyclable to 90% recyclable. And you're using that end market understanding of the waste system to then help make better decisions upstream. So we like to say that you can help design waste out of the system because rather than create a bigger bucket, let's turn the tap off at the source. That's how we view it.
No, that makes sense. I like that. So like thinking about like products at the beginning, but being able to use that data that we already collected to help inform the decision at the beginning.
Exactly.
Another question that I had was more of like, so do you have any other like products? You said you guys no longer do like the physical hard trash cans anymore. Is there anything else that you provide, or do you still have those trash cans that people can use or waste?
No,
they're gone.
No trash cans. Yeah, they're all gone. No. So
how was that transition for you?
It was easier than we thought, mainly because from a cost perspective, we didn't win the prize money. We didn't have the money to develop the modules further.
Okay.
But when we started doing a lot of user research, especially around the app portion of our software, we started to learn a smart bin in a specific community wasn't necessarily going to solve the problem for the consumer engaging on a nationwide scale. If it was, you would need smart bins at every single waste disposal unit, which is a very ambitious goal. What we thought, and we kind of bet on being the way forward for us, was helping consumers at the baseline level recycle something as easy as possible. So if you've got a waste type from a specific brand that's a little bit tricky to recycle, you don't hate the planet and you don't put it in the wrong bin because you hate the planet. You just don't have the tools to do it right. So we developed our app, which is getting a big relaunch very soon, to help educate at the point of disposal. So every time you have a piece of waste ready to dispose of, you know what to do with it. So
this is also accessible for consumers. It's not just for businesses. So I could download this app, or is it ideally for businesses?
You can download the app. Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah. So it's downloaded for anyone. It's available in the UK, US, and Canada. We have 100% recycling guidance across all of those markets. The idea is we wanted to give consumers every possible means in which they can handle their waste properly with a tool like our app. But what we do when we work with businesses is we work a little bit further upstream. So we really help try and guide on the reduction of waste first and foremost, and then provide tools downstream to help people handle it.
So then are you able to then track the data for like, are people using it and being able to then also help guide that? I see this as like, name of my podcast is Environmental Answers. I see this as like a full answer of being able to look at waste from a different perspective, a very innovative perspective, and like almost like educating from the beginning all the way to the end. Is that the goal? Is that the thought?
That's the goal. Yeah. End to end is where we're really looking. And if we can engage the different stakeholders, so you as a resident, you interface with your municipality, but then you might go to work in the next county over. You want to be able to have a consistent experience throughout, right? So we really work with as many organizations as we can to help achieve that goal.
Gotcha. Are there any challenges that you face right now with like this app and like getting it into the hands of people? Is there any way that maybe my audience could help?
One big thing is data. So if you go download the app, you might see that there's some data. Your favorite brand might not be in there. We actively try and work with as many brands as we can. So if you see a brand that you really like and you scan it and it's not in the app, let us know. We'll reach out to them because we can then say that, hey, your customers are asking for this. Let's get you onto our system. So for us, it's really getting the data is the biggest challenge. It's something that we're using a lot of proprietary AI machine learning to help accelerate that acquisition of data. But it's a big world and there's a lot of waste. So we've got a long way to go.
That's good. I understand that. So if we go on there, we download the app and we're like scanning, we're like, hey, wait, my product's not in there or something. I can just simply let you guys know inside the app. Or is there another way? Oh, yeah. Okay. Inside the app.
Let us know through the app. Also, whenever something is identified on our system that isn't, anything that we find that is not on our system, we then also get notified as well. But if we're hearing it directly from customers of those brands, it's a win-win.
It makes sense. Is there any products, like I know you talked to us about like the soda bottles, like lists that I think about. I think I talk to people in the beauty industry specifically. Are there any things that people are using that are like just difficult to like recycle that you guys have seen come up as a problem before?
Many times, yeah. We've done some bespoke work with some of the biggest beauty and cosmetics brands in the world. And beauty and cosmetics is an interesting challenge because the packaging is usually too small. So on average, if you have a waste type that is smaller than a credit card, the machines won't detect it. So it will always end up in the recycling bin. So it can't get separated. On top of that, they're not cleaned. So if they're not clean, they're contaminated, and therefore they're going to get rejected as well. There are some fantastic companies out there like Pact, who go out and actively have drop-off points, and you can go to, which are going to be listed on Scrapp's new map feature coming in literally in the coming weeks. But you can go onto their app, and go onto their drop-off points, and you can get them to recycle your beauty cosmetics. It's difficult because people want to act sustainably, but if it's not convenient or if it's not packaged in a way that is easily recyclable or reusable, etc., consumers lose trust in the brand. But if their product is solving a really specific problem for them, like having makeup, for example, that's a really compelling use case that it's not unlikely somebody's not going to buy that because the packaging is unsustainable, right? So we have to find ways in which we can help design the product to be better suited to be picked up on the recycling line. And then that's the challenge.
That makes sense. I think about like mascara containers or different other containers that probably just won't get picked up, and then they end up like not where they need to be. So outside of like everything that you shared with us, something that came up was like, why do you think your product is needed like in this market? Like if you could describe why, could you explain that to us?
I think our product is needed in this market because we dramatically underestimate the waste problem. And as production of materials increase, the handling of that waste is also going to increase, and the burden is going to increase. New England, for example, I don't want to butcher the statistic, but it's estimated by 2040, it will run out of landfill space. As space shrinks, to put your waste, cost goes up. You have to then start shipping it overseas. There's a financial incentive to ensure you're going circular with your waste and not letting it just go straight to landfill. So I think right now a product like ours is needed is because the environmental damages are now clear as ever. You're starting to see a direct correlation with the mishandling of waste and pollution on the human body, which I think is very important. There's the financial incentive that I just mentioned. And I think we're really at a turning point because people are starting to realize sustainability can't be boiled down just into a CO2 metric. There's nuance. Waste is a very interesting piece of the equation because it is ubiquitous to everyone, but is also unique to everyone at the same time. And it tells a lot about somebody and who they are.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way. You brought up another term that, I think gets used a lot, but people define it differently. So that's the word sustainability. So I was curious, like, what does sustainable or sustainability mean to you?
So I go back to my geography from years and years ago when I first started learning about sustainability. And the definition that I stick with and I always think about is you're meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the need of future generations. That's the way that I view it. And by taking that definition and applying it case by case, you're essentially just thinking, if I were to do the thing that I'm doing forever, what does that look like? What future am I generating? Now, not everything can be done sustainably. I get that. Sometimes there is nuance in that, but it's how do you optimize your life, your behaviors, your habits to make sure that you are thinking about the future in your decision making so it is no worse off than where it is now.
No, that's clear. I appreciate that definition. I really do. So another question that we had was about like when you travel, do you have any like recommendations to help people with reducing their waste?
So when you travel, yes, fantastic example. So I was just saying to Tiana before this, I just got back from Seville, Spain, and also Granada. Very fortunate. It was a lovely holiday that I've had. And I was speaking with my friends who I was with today, and none of us used a plastic water bottle at all. And I was like, this is interesting. Why did that happen? Now, Spain has water taps everywhere, publicly accessible drinking water in all of the streets within the cities. And I just carried around my Scrapp water bottle. That was it. And then they didn't offer plastic water bottles anywhere else in the restaurants that we were at. Of course, if I wanted to go to a supermarket, to a grocery store and go there, I could probably find one, right? But I didn't need to. All of their other drinks that we had, even the water bottles were in glass. And as I was walking around, there's a huge government initiatives for the use of glass in Spain, which current carbon emission calculations say that's not a good thing. But there's parts of plastic, because glass is heavier, it means it takes more emissions to transport. But in the localized environment, if it's a reusable system, when we left wherever we were, we gave back the glass bottles. They were getting washed, reused again. So I think it depends on a case by case. If you're not shipping it like globally, naturally, I think, yeah, the carbon emission argument holds true. So very interesting with, so for that, my first thing is that the whole, backstory.
No, that makes sense. Make sure you bring your water bottle, but that's really cool. Like, especially when you're traveling to places that make it so that water is accessible, because not everywhere water is as accessible, but like if you're traveling somewhere and the water is accessible, being able to have your water bottle with you. I hadn't heard about that glass thing until right now. Like I see the implications of like why that's positive, especially like imagining if in one city or one area. I think about like I live in Raleigh, so like think about downtown Cary. They had it so that there were aluminum, like if you want to drink your beer, like you drink the beer, they have aluminum like drink like container, just a cup, a regular cup, but you have to return it in the same space. So like before you leave, it's similar thought of being able to like keep it in the same place. They wash it so that you can essentially reduce waste by keeping the material in the same place.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. Well, in wrapping up the episode, I just wanted to ask you, is there anything that you have going on at Scrapp that you want to make sure that the community is aware of?
We have a big app relaunch on its way. So if you download the app now, there's some ironing out of some updates that have been building up over the last 9 months, where we've been speaking to users, we've been speaking to our clients about how we can improve the experience. So that should be coming out in the next few weeks. So stay tuned for the update. And yeah, keep on using it and help go zero waste.
Yeah, that's awesome. If there was anyone that wanted to start a business like yours, what would you recommend they do? Would they any books you recommend or any resources you would highlight for them to check out?
If you're looking at starting a business, I would highly recommend reading a book called Zero to One. It was a very good way of contextualizing how to start a startup, more specifically in some vertical like software. If you're looking at starting a business yourself, but more in a different realm, the Lean Startup Canvas is a very good resource for you to help kind of get the idea that you have in your head and really focus in on, okay, how do I make something that is solving a problem and I'm going to get paid for? And it helps. It's a canvas model where it has different segments on who your customers are, who your partners should be. Really good resource. And then another book, which I only actually spoke about only just the other day, which has been 5 years since I first read it, The Mum Test.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
okay.
that's a very good book to help get rid of any assumptions on your market that you're servicing, and it really helps boil it down. How do you get user feedback in a way that isn't just your mum saying, "Hey, honey, this is great. Congrats. I love it."
Got you. Helping us get around that. Well, it's been a real pleasure to get to know you, Evan, and learn more about the project that you're building. We're very grateful. Something that we're working on here in Environmental Answers is like I want to call it like the Environmental Answers Award show, but like really like highlighting businesses and what they're doing. We would definitely like to put your name in the hat. Is that okay with you?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely. Yeah,
like
thank you,
this
Tiana. Yeah,
is something that we really admire and definitely would love to have you come to something in person, maybe in the future. I know you said your team is in Boston, right?
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that'd be
Really.
really, really awesome. But thank you again for joining us for an episode of the Environmental Answers podcast, where we're bringing you clarity on what's what. Here to help you answer any questions you have about the environment. You can always email us at ask@envans.org. Again, that's ask@envans.org. So the first three letters of environmental and the first three letters of answers.org. All right. I hope you all enjoyed another wonderful episode and have a good day.